Y'all, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. This Jay Z case with Tony Busby. I know Jay Z is somewhere talking about he's about to get this work, Busby, for real. And someone said Busby's firm is about to be called Roc-A-Buzbee because Jay Z is about to get his attorney license and own that firm. And Busby, I don't know, man. There's no way, in my opinion, a reasonable attorney would have taken this case. Let's talk about it. So for those of you who may not be familiar, Tony Busby has filed a complaint on behalf of a woman who goes by Jane Doe. She wants to remain anonymous for good reason, because this case is trash, in my opinion. And it's a shakedown, in my opinion. Now, initially, Busby filed this case, and it was about pretty much Diddy, Sean Combs. Like, he was the only person mentioned in the case. And I remember reading it back then thinking it had some red flags. And we'll talk about that here shortly. But somehow, I guess, Busby, he didn't name the other two people mentioned in the case. So when he filed it initially, again, Diddy was mentioned, and then there was a celebrity A and then a celebrity B that was mentioned, and Busby did not mention who those celebrities were until now. At least he mentioned one of them, and that person is Jay Z. He, I guess, in the complaint is celebrity A. But yeah, I remember when I first read this complaint or heard about it, and it just sounded, there were just, again, some red flags. First of all, it involved a 13-year-old girl, which is obviously on its face horrible to read that a 13-year-old girl may have been violated back in 2000. That's when this case happened, back in 2000, 24 years ago. So the story goes, or this is what Jane Doe claims, that she was driven to New York City by one of her friends, and they dropped her off in New York City. That's a red flag to me. In New York City, by yourself, 13 years old, your friend dropped you off so that you could go to the VMAs, which she says was on her bucket list. Now, even that little nuance was a red flag to me, because who at 13 years old even has a bucket list? But anyway, just say you just wanted to always go to the VMAs, and she didn't have a ticket. So you drove to the VMAs, didn't have a ticket, but you were just hoping to get in. Again, red flag. But anyway. So she's there in the atmosphere, all these people around, she says. She doesn't get in. And so she's forced to, I guess, watch from the outside. I was not in New York City at that time. I'm not quite sure if you could have watched from the outside, but that's what she says in terms of maybe a jumbotron, whatever. She watched from the outside, she claims. But while she's out there, she says that she was spotted by a limo driver. So all the limo drivers that are out there, one of them spots her, and this limo driver happens to be Diddy's limo driver. And this limo driver, she claims, tells her, "Oh, you look like the type of girl that Diddy would like. So, or meet me here around 9:30 or 10 p.m. and I'll take you to his after party." Again, 13-year-old girl, this is what she's being told. Now, I will say this. There is an issue in this country and around the world with trafficking of young women. So it's possible that a driver or a person, like just in that kind of scenario, could target a young girl. So that part, it could happen. But so she claims that she did what he asked and somehow met with him around the time that he requested, around 9:30, 10 p.m. She claims they drove outside of the city for about 20 minutes and end up at a white home with, I think she said like a U-shaped driveway. Now, to me, that would mean she's clearly probably in New Jersey because there aren't white homes and U-shaped driveways in the city. Now, some people are questioning, and this is a red flag to some people, saying, I don't know if it would only take you 20 minutes to get to one of those type of homes in New Jersey, but that's, again, her story. So she's at this home. She claims that she sees a celebrity and has a whole conversation with this celebrity. I believe his name is Benji. She says she has a whole conversation with him about tattoos and all kinds of stuff. And somehow, though, she ends up in a room, and that is when she says she encounters Diddy, Jay Z, and Celebrity B, who Buzbee has not mentioned yet who that is. And Celebrity B is supposed to be a female celebrity who apparently watched everything that was happening. Now, this woman, who was, again, 13 at the time, claims that she... even prior to getting into this room, she saw illegal substances being used, and she was offered a drink and all kinds of just craziness. Anyway, but while she's in this room, she claims that she was then violated by Diddy and Jay Z. Horrible, horrible scenario. Anytime a child is violated, anytime anyone is violated, that's a horrible crime. And people who commit these crimes should be in jail, under the jail, if not just completely eliminated. Okay. I mean, this is a horrible crime, and it's not something you accuse somebody of lightly. You better have the proof. You better be credible, right? So she claims that she was violated in this room. Somehow she was able to fight back, and she escapes, and she runs out the house, somehow ends up finding a gas station. The clerk, she claims, saw that she was distressed, and she was able to call her father, and she claims her father picked her up. Again, when I first heard this story, my thought was, wait a minute, your father picks you up, you are in distress, this incident just happened to you, and he did not try to call the police. He did not try to go do some work on Diddy or whoever else you claim violated you. He didn't try to do something. That was a red flag to me. Now, fast forward to, I believe this case was filed around October. Fast forward to November. A John Doe sues Tony Buzbee for extortion, claiming that obviously Tony Buzbee was trying to strong arm them and get money out of them by making false claims. Turns out that John Doe was Jay Z, because Tony Buzbee, fast forward to December, decided to name Jay Z in this suit. Instead of calling him Celebrity A, he went on and said it was Jay Z. Jay Z obviously came out swinging and put out a statement calling this obviously a heinous crime, said it's so heinous that why are you even asking for money? You should be seeking criminal prosecution on this. That's how heinous this crime is. And he also, of course, mentioned that being accused of this is heartbreaking, not only to him, but to his family, to his wife, Beyonce, to his children, and how he had to sit down with them and explain to them how, these are false accusations, and just pretty much confirm that this is an extortion attempt, and to pretty much just try to protect his family from the outside world that would, of course, talk to them about this particular case, particularly his daughter, Blue Ivy, who he said in his statement was at the age where her friends could very well speak to her about this case. But on top of that, Buzbee released this information the day before Blue Ivy was to premiere or showcase her talent at the Mufasa premiere, because she's in that film along with her mother, Beyonce. And so this was dimming her light there. Although I can tell you, her light was not dimmed. People are still very proud of her. People celebrated her. I know we celebrated her on our page. So bravo to Blue Ivy, bravo to Beyonce. But they showed a united front at that particular premiere despite these accusations coming out. So, of course, though, there's still all this media talk. Oh, we're going to talk about Jay Z and pretty much do the typical thing that happens when someone is accused of these type of crimes. All of a sudden, old friends want to come out and share their stories or whatever else. And then you also fear there could be other people who come out with their own lawsuits. So, of course, the media was getting ready for that, trying to already create that narrative. And then fast forward to last night, NBC News did an investigative report where they talked to this woman who is now, I guess, around 37 or 38 years old. Turns out this woman is autistic. Turns out this woman has had a brain injury even before this alleged incident happened. And let's just say her case blew up after having this particular interview, so much so that I'm looking at Tony Buzbee like, how are you considered a high-powered attorney? Just how? And so let's break it down. So usually when you do these type of cases, it's obviously one party's word against another party's word. But if the person accusing can have some type of corroboration, that may strengthen her case. This particular Jane Doe has no corroboration because the woman she claims who dropped her off, she has passed on. Her father does not even recall this night. And how could that be? Because apparently this woman, she lived in Rochester, New York, which is 5 hours from New York City. So you're telling me your friend dropped you off, left you there after driving 5 hours and then drove 5 hours back to Rochester. Then you're telling me your father drove 5 hours to pick you up after you've been in this particular incident, after I'm assuming you've been missing to them. He drove 5 hours to pick you up and then drove 5 hours back. That's 10 hours back. And you all said nothing in the car. And he's now saying he doesn't even remember this night. No, red flag. And of course, you can't tell us who this limo driver is. And then the artist that you claim you spoke to at the particular after party, his management has come out and said that they weren't even in New York that night. They were on tour in the Midwest. So this case, in my opinion, is over, should have never been filed, and shame on you, Tony Buzbee, for, in my opinion, taking advantage of a woman who clearly has some mental issues. She, in my opinion, has created a fantasy. This story happened in her mind. She probably was watching the VMAs at home in her pajamas like the rest of us, and somehow probably created this fantasy in her mind. Like, it probably has been her dream to attend the VMAs, but it probably never happened. And in her mind, she created a story as to perhaps how it could have happened. And this would have been a very twisted story because it includes a violation, and that's very sad. And that's why I say this is a woman who is probably highly disturbed, and I would even want to know more about her family history. Has she ever been violated, perhaps inside of her family or from family friends? Because just something isn't right to make something like this up. But I can't necessarily fully blame her, although I would not be mad if Jay Z wanted to sue her, despite her being autistic. But I blame mostly Tony Buzbee because you, as a professional, this is your job to vet individuals like this, because you're going to get people who are going to come to you with some outlandish stories. It is your job as a legal professional to vet them, to ask questions, you should have spoken to the father. This should have never been filed until it was a solid case. And it's clear that this case was not solid. In fact, Tony Buzbee has said that another attorney sent the case to him. So they even knew this case was bull crap. But Tony Buzbee, as of now, as I'm filming this, continues to hold strong with this case and said, despite all these inconsistencies, this story, in his opinion, is still true. But I can tell you right now, again, Jay Z, he has every right to do some work on Tony Buzbee. Like I said, that Buzbee firm needs to be Roc-A-Buzbee, because there's no way you accuse someone of something this heinous, where it could have affected his legacy, his reputation, his money, his family, and all those things. I mean, we're talking Jay Z is $1 billion brand. Beyonce's $1 billion brand. She's about to do a big show on Christmas Day. This was trying to ruin that moment for her. You tried to ruin his daughter's moment at the Mufasa. He has every right to do all kinds of work on Buzbee, especially if they fully prove that this was a shakedown and is just obviously not true. I mean, to me, at some point, we as the public, when we see these cases, we need to put on our common sense and recognize the nonsense. This was nonsense. I sensed it when I first read it, and I darn sure feel it right now after hearing this particular interview. And to me, it's a shame, because it's like we see Diddy's house is burning. And it just feels like people want to take some of the fire from that house and put some of that fire in the bushes surrounding the house of other people, like a Jay Z or other celebrities, and then try to burn their houses down. And that is just not fair. It's not right. Jay Z, he's a family man. He loves his wife. He loves his children. He doesn't deserve this type of false information to come out on him. And look, Tony Buzbee, again, he says he stands by this case, but to me, again, I'm putting my common sense hat on, and this, to me, is a false story. And Jay Z is telling you it's a false story. His attorney is coming out strong saying it's a false story, and they may even go after Buzbee when it comes to his license, and I can't blame them. But let me just also make it clear, this not only hurts or tried to hurt Jay Z, but it also could potentially hurt other true victims. In fact, Jay Z mentioned that in his statement. There are other victims out there, not as it pertains to a Jay Z, but just in general. There are other true victims out there who are often afraid to come forward. This makes it harder for them. And let's be very clear. Most people do not lie about being violated. They do not. So do not allow this story to make you think that others who come forward are also lying. This is, I would say, a very unique situation. It should have never come to light. But again, I put that on Tony Buzbee. He was the one that should have stopped this. This should have never been made a case. And Jay Z has said that, but since he went on and did it, Jay Z, like I said, is going to have to go after him, and I don't blame him one bit. But share your thoughts below. I'm Stacey Brewer, and this is H Blues Word. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.